Hey guys, I'm here at Sycamore Creek Family Ranch in Southwest Missouri, hanging out with my wife and 3 boys. And here in my hands, I have the Sony a6500, and I want to give it a real-world review from a dad's point of view. I want to see how this camera handles in everyday situations. So let's go.
Now we're gonna start with the design and features. So let's see what's inside the box. Cool, so pretty much all the standard stuff. One thing to point out, you get a USB charger instead of a wall-mounted battery charger. Right off the bat, you'll notice the Sony a6500 is super small and compact, which makes it awesome for portability and makes it a lot less intimidating in situations with family and friends. The camera body feels really strong and robust. It has a magnesium alloy frame, so it's kind of cool to the touch. It's also dust and moisture resistant, so it's great for trips out to the desert and the lake. In the hand, the grip is easy to hold on to, especially with that tactile rubber grip. It has a nice curved ergonomic shape, which is really nice. The one gripe is with larger hands like myself, the ring finger and pinky tend to fall beneath the camera, making it a little bit uncomfortable to hold. The LCD screen is kind of a good news, bad news. The good news is that it's tiltable. It's also one of the first a6000 series cameras with touchscreen ability, which is fantastic for autofocus. The bad news is that the LCD screen can't flip out, so if you want to take a selfie with your family or if you're into vlogging, unfortunately you're not going to be able to see yourself. The touchscreen is limited to autofocus only, which is a huge bummer because it'd be super nice to navigate through the menus and find something quickly. Another big letdown is the brightness of the LCD screen. It's almost impossible to see in direct sunlight, and while that's not necessarily uncommon with cameras, I found that the Sony a6500 screen was incredibly hard to see. Thankfully, Sony hooked us up with a very bright and detailed, true-to-life EVF that is a pleasure to use, especially outdoors under the sun. One of the standout features for the Sony a6500 is in-body image stabilization, and basically what that means is that you have the ability now to have a stabilized image both for photography and for video, regardless of the lens that you use. Stabilization gives you sharper images in low light, reducing camera shake, and for video, it helps give you that smooth cinematic look. One other little known feature that I think is a game changer for moms and dads is silent shooting. Check this out.
Testing silent shutter.
So yeah, if you didn't hear anything, that's exactly the idea. Silent shutter is completely silent, which is great for recitals or capturing candid moments of your family. Wi-Fi is also built into the camera, so you can transfer photos over to your phone, do some editing, and then upload to social media. The process is kind of slow and clunky. It's a little bit of a hit or miss, but it gets the job done when you're on the go and away from your computer.
For someone like me, one of the most important features on a camera is autofocus. And this is where Sony's really separating itself from the pack.
Now, without getting super technical and geeky, let me just tell you in plain English that the Sony a6500 has one of the fastest and most accurate autofocus systems I've ever used. When focusing on a fast-moving subject, the camera locks onto it like a swarm of bees. It's really an incredible thing to witness firsthand. If you take a lot of portraits of family and friends, you're seriously going to be blown away by face and eye detection. It has an uncanny ability at finding a face, even if it's off center, and also locking onto the eyes to get a tack-sharp result. If that's not enough, you can even tell the camera what face to lock onto when taking pictures of a group. I think this could be a game changer at a recital or a wedding. If you're into sports or wildlife, it gets even better. I know, it's hard to imagine, but with the touch of a finger, you can tell the camera where to focus and it will lock onto that subject as they run around the frame, moving in different directions, and it does an amazing job keeping them nice and sharp. To improve your odds even further, the a6500 has a continuous burst rate of 11 frames per second. So as you hold down the shutter button, you can fire off a bunch of images and capture the decisive moment.
In the last year, I've been getting really into video. Whether I'm recording cinematic moments with my family, heading to the park, or enjoying a holiday together, the Sony a6500 is a movie-making beast.
It has everything an aspiring filmmaker might want in a camera. Things like a mic jack, HDMI out, focus peaking, and picture profiles. For those of us using this in everyday life, the important features to note are smooth, stabilized 4K video, and the ability to record super slow motion for that awesome cinematic look. Maybe even more valuable than those features is its ability to quickly and accurately obtain autofocus during video recording. In case you're wondering, it carries over many of the autofocus features for stills, things like face detection and subject tracking. The only thing that kind of irks me when it comes to video recording is the location of this very small and impossible to hit record button. Why, Sony? Why? While we're on the subject of things that irk me, I think it's a good time to talk about ease of use, because the menu system and overall button layout feel kind of clunky and overly complicated. It really is a blessing and a curse. I mean, Sony's given us all these awesome features and the ability to customize the button layout however we want. Because of that, there's a steeper learning curve compared to other cameras. Which reminds me of that quote from Spider-Man, you know, the one, with great power comes great responsibility. I think if you go into it with the mindset of being patient and understanding how powerful this camera is, over time things will become simpler and you'll learn to live with its quirks.
All right, so I'm back at my computer. I've had a chance to look over the photos, and let me just tell you, the image quality out of this thing is fantastic. It's really good. Now, before I dive in a little bit deeper and show you some photos, I want to tell you that this review, the one that you're watching, has taken me over a month to create. From planning everything out to recording, editing, putting it all together, it requires a lot of work. And I would really appreciate your support if you've enjoyed this video so far, to give me a thumbs up, to leave a comment down below, share it with friends and family. And more importantly, I also put some links down below to B&H so that you can check out the prices, and if you end up purchasing the camera, it gives me a little kickback, it gives me a little thank you, a little tip. So with that being said, thank you, and let's dive into the image quality and see what this camera is capable of.
Here's a photo of my little dude Sawyer, and you can see the camera did a great job locking focus. He's nice and sharp. But what I want to show you guys is how much dynamic range is possible with the a6500. And dynamic range is just a fancy word for detail in the shadows, like here on his face, and in the highlights, like here in the sky. Now, here's what the photo looks like after a couple adjustments inside Adobe Lightroom. Bam! Here in the sky, you can see the string lights. There's a little more detail here in the trees. And then here on his face, it's a lot brighter. Up here in the rafters, it's also a little bit brighter. Again, here's a before and here's an after. Now, let's see how the a6500 handles noise or image grain. This is a photo of my wife, and as you can see, she's pregnant. We're about 4 or 5 weeks away from launch. Don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but we're super excited. Anyways, because she was dimly lit, I had to use an ISO of around 800. So let's go ahead and zoom in. And you can see there's very little noise. There's a lot of detail retained here in her hair, in her face. And if you look in the really dark parts, you might see a little bit of grain, but it's very nicely controlled by the a6500. When it comes to color, I'm relying more and more on in-camera color processing to produce an output that is pleasing to my eye. And if it helps as a benchmark, I really like the colors produced by Canon and Fujifilm cameras. So take that into account as I talk about the a6500. Here in this shot of my son Zealand, honestly, I think the a6500 nailed it. When I zoom in and look at his skin tones, they look soft and creamy. There's that beautiful, nice pink hue in his cheeks and in his lips. And in the background, the greens are vibrant and punchy. There's this nice warm glow from the sun. Just overall, I feel like it's a very pleasing color output, especially here in the skin tones. To close out this review, here are a few more sample photos and cinematic footage taken with the a6500.